Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Some people call you unrealistic when you talk about the life you want. They say it with a calm face, like they are doing you a favor. What they are really doing is pulling you back into the range where they feel safe. They want your desires to match the size of their courage. They want your goals to fit inside the limits they accepted years ago. A person who has surrendered always panics around someone who still believes. Their world only makes sense if your hunger becomes a phase. Your vision threatens the agreement they made with their own fear. So they label you delusional, then pretend they are being practical. Practical is just another word for staying still with good manners. The truth is simpler. You are not delusional enough, not because you want too much, but because you still negotiate with doubts that were never yours. A small dream does not protect you from pain. It only guarantees a quieter kind of regret. People who think they are being wise often choose the smallest version of their life because it feels manageable. They confuse comfort with control. They choose a path that will not embarrass them, then call it responsibility. Then they watch you talk about transformation, and it irritates them because they feel the distance between what they settled for and what you still demand. They call your standards impossible because they cannot imagine building the person required to reach them. That is not your problem. Your mind was built to aim at the horizon, then walk until the body catches up. Your job is not to sound reasonable. Your job is to be honest about what you want, and then become the kind of man who can hold it without flinching. Delusion, the kind that changes lives, is not pretending. It is committing before the evidence shows up. Most people wait for permission. They wait for certainty, for support, for a sign that the risk will not punish them. Their confidence is rented, and the landlord is other people's opinions. Your confidence must be owned. The world rewards the one who moves first, not the one who understands the map. Every major shift begins with someone being laughed at in the early stages. Every breakthrough looks like arrogance to the timid. When you believe in the outcome before the crowd can see it, you look insane. Later, they call it vision. That is how this game has always worked. The difference between fantasy and destiny is the daily labor you are willing to do while everyone else is still debating what is realistic. You have to understand what you are up against. It is not logic. It is social gravity. The average person is pulled toward the average life because it comes with social approval. The crowd gives applause for being relatable. It gives silence for being exceptional. So people learn to keep their dreams polite and their ambitions quiet. They learn to ask for less, so no one feels challenged. They learn to become easy to digest. Then you arrive with a plan that refuses to shrink, and it exposes what they tried to hide from themselves. It forces them to feel their own compromise. That is why they react emotionally and dress it up as advice. They do not want to save you from failure. They want to save themselves from the discomfort of watching you attempt something they never dared to attempt. If you want a different life, you will have to accept a different kind of loneliness. There is a season where the old version of you is gone, and the new version is not yet visible to anyone. In that season, people look at you and see a gap. Then they fill it with their own judgments. They call you confused because they cannot see your internal structure. They call you lost because you stopped walking their road. This is where many people collapse. They start explaining, defending, performing for approval again. They try to look normal. Normal is the trap. Your growth will feel like delusion because you are acting from the future while living in the present. You are carrying a blueprint inside your ribs. Not everyone deserves to see it while it is being built. The mind that wins is not the mind that thinks the most. It is the mind that obeys itself. You do not need more information. You need fewer negotiations. Every time you hesitate, you teach your brain that your word has no weight. Every time you follow through, you forge a reputation inside yourself. A man becomes dangerous when he trusts his own command. That is what people sense when they look at you and feel unsettled. They cannot control you with doubt if you do not cooperate with it. They cannot steer you with mockery if you do not require their respect. You become a force when you stop asking the world to agree with your standards. Your standards do not need a vote. They need practice, repetition, and the willingness to look foolish while you sharpen them. There is also a deeper truth. Most people live inside a story that keeps them safe. The story says they tried, circumstances were hard, time was short, the world is unfair. The story gives them an excuse that protects their ego. Your ambition threatens that story. If you succeed, it proves their excuses were optional. If you fail and try again, it proves their pride was fragile. Either way, your existence becomes an accusation. So they call you delusional because it is easier than admitting they were afraid. They will say, be realistic, as if realism is a virtue. Realism is a description, not a destiny. The people who changed the world were never loyal to realism. They were loyal to a decision. They were loyal to the work required to make their delusion become ordinary. You do not need to become louder. You need to become steadier. The loud man wants attention. The steady man wants results. The steady man wakes up and does the same thing even when the mood is gone. The steady man trains when the doubts are screaming, because he knows doubts are not warnings, they are weather. The steady man builds habits that do not care about feelings. That is why his life changes, not because he had perfect confidence, but because he refused to treat discomfort as a stop sign. This is what separates the talkers from the builders. Talkers need excitement. Builders need structure. If you want to be delusional enough, stop asking if you feel ready. Start asking if you are willing to pay the cost of becoming ready, day after day, without applause. There will be a moment where you feel the old you pulling at your sleeve. It will whisper the old logic. It will say, slow down, be humble, do not aim so high, do not risk being wrong. That voice is not wisdom. It is the residue of every time you were punished for wanting more. It is the echo of environments that rewarded conformity. You do not fight that voice with motivational phrases. You fight it with action that proves you are no longer governed by it. You show your nervous system a new pattern. You show your mind that you can endure the heat of effort without running back to comfort. You show your identity that it can survive being misunderstood. That is real power, the kind that cannot be taken from you because it was built, not granted. Your mind can hold more than most people ever demand of it. Yet it was never designed to be treated like a dumping ground. A machine can be powerful and still choke when it is forced to run everything at once. A man can be intelligent and still collapse when he keeps every fear open in the background. People pretend multitasking is strength. It is often a slow, silent fracture. Focus is not a personality trait, it is a resource. When you split it into pieces, each piece becomes too weak to carry weight. The mind then starts compensating. It rushes, it loops, it checks, it rechecks, it scans for threats that do not exist. It burns energy to keep noise alive. Then you wonder why the smallest inconvenience feels like a personal attack. Nothing is wrong with your character. Too much is running. Too many windows. Too many alarms. Too many unfinished battles demanding your attention at the same time. Think about what happens when a system is overloaded. It does not explode first. It slows, it lags, it stutters. The delay becomes the warning. Your mind does the same. You read a sentence and it slides off you. You enter a room and forget why you came. You start a task and your body stays still while your thoughts sprint in every direction. That is not laziness. That is overload. You are trying to run the future, the past, the opinions of others, and the current moment all at once. The brain keeps switching channels, and every switch costs energy. This is why you feel tired without doing anything. The exhaustion is real, even when your hands have been idle. Suffering rises because your attention has no home. A mind that cannot settle will interpret everything as urgent. A mind with no clear target becomes a mind that creates targets out of shadows. Most people do not notice the cost because they call it normal. They live with constant internal interruptions, then accept the anxiety as their personality. They wake up and immediately feed the system more tasks, more messages, more headlines, more comparisons, more reminders of what they have not done. They live as if the mind was meant to be a crowded street, always loud, always moving, always pressured. The problem with that life is not just discomfort. The problem is what it does to your perception. A fragmented mind cannot see clearly. It cannot choose well. It reacts. It mistakes tension for truth. It mistakes speed for progress. It mistakes noise for importance. Then it makes decisions that increase the load even further. It becomes a cycle. The mind slows down, so you panic. You add more effort, so it slows more. You call it discipline, yet it is just fear dressed up in ambition. There is a reason suffering increases when focus is split. Pain loves confusion. It thrives when your attention is scattered because you cannot locate the source of your strain. You feel wrong, then you start searching for reasons. You blame your mood, your past, your body, your luck. The search becomes another task, another tab, another program. Now the mind is not only overloaded, it is also hunting itself. The more it hunts, the less it rests. The less it rests, the more it misreads everything. This is how a small issue becomes a crisis. Not because the problem grew, but because the system lost its ability to process it cleanly. A stable mind can hold discomfort without drama. An overloaded mind turns discomfort into prophecy. It says this feeling means something terrible is coming. It says you are behind. It says you are failing. It says you are broken. It is not truth. It is a system gasping for space. The cruel part is that overload often looks like productivity from the outside. You appear busy, you appear engaged, you appear driven. Inside, you are being dragged by unfinished thoughts. Every open loop becomes a weight. Every unresolved decision becomes a buzzing in the background. Your mind keeps poking you with reminders like a desperate assistant. Do not forget this. Do not forget them. Do not forget what you said. Do not forget what might happen. You try to silence it by checking your phone, checking your notes, checking your calendar, checking your identity. You do not get relief, you get another loop. Relief does not come from doing more. Relief comes from closing what does not need to be open. A computer runs better when you stop forcing it to carry every program at once. A man runs better when he stops treating every thought as a command. You do not need to become softer. You need to become cleaner. Clean focus is not fragile. It is ruthless. It decides what matters and starves everything else. That is where peace begins. Not in comfort, not in escape, not in entertainment. Peace begins when you stop giving your attention away like it has no value. Attention is your currency. It buys your results. It buys your relationships. It buys your future. When you spend it on noise, you go bankrupt inside. You feel poor even if your life looks fine. This is why modern life creates anxious men with full schedules. Their calendars are packed, yet their minds are empty of clarity. The power move is to reduce the mental clutter until one goal becomes loud enough to guide you. One task becomes clear enough to complete. One decision becomes final enough to stop haunting you. Fragmentation also distorts your sense of time. When your attention is split, the day feels shorter. Hours disappear. You scroll, you switch, you start, you stop. You do not build momentum, you build friction. At the end of the day, you feel like you ran a marathon, yet you cannot point to what you created. That is a special kind of torment. It attacks your self-respect. You start believing you cannot follow through. You start expecting failure before you begin. Then even simple tasks feel heavy. This is not because you are incapable. It is because your mind has learned the rhythm of interruption. It has learned to flee as soon as effort becomes uncomfortable. A supercomputer can handle incredible work, yet it needs structure. Your mind is the same. It needs a single lane, not 100 roads. It needs depth, not constant novelty. They teach people to crave simple answers because simple answers are easy to sell. A population that thinks in black and white becomes predictable. Predictable people are easy to steer. Give them a villain, give them a hero, give them a slogan, and they will march in formation while believing they are thinking for themselves. The mind loves certainty when it is afraid. Certainty feels like safety. They give you neat boxes for complex reality. Right side, wrong side, good, bad, us, them. Smart, stupid, worthy, worthless. The tragedy is not that life becomes simpler. The tragedy is that life becomes smaller. A man who only sees extremes cannot see depth. He cannot see pattern. He cannot see motive. He cannot see himself. He becomes a weapon in someone else's hand, swinging at shadows, never realizing the real cage is his own perception. Black and white thinking is a shortcut, yet every shortcut has a price. The price is curiosity. The price is patience. The price is the ability to hold two truths at once without falling apart. When you are trained to pick a side instantly, you stop listening. You stop observing. You stop asking what you have not considered. You start treating questions as betrayal. You start treating nuance as weakness. That is how they break a culture. Not by taking away freedom directly, but by making people allergic to complexity. The world becomes a screaming match where the loudest simplification wins. Real understanding never wins in that arena. Real understanding moves slowly, quietly, with humility and precision. It does not fit on a poster. It does not go viral in a sentence. So they replace it with certainty that feels strong, even when it is empty. The magic happens in the gray because the gray is where reality lives. The gray is where motives mix, where pain hides behind confidence, where love can be clumsy, where good intentions can cause harm, where a bad decision can come from fear rather than evil. The gray is where you learn to read people without becoming naive. The gray is where you see that someone can be wrong and still be human. Someone can be hurt and still be dangerous. Someone can be powerful and still be lost. Black and white thinking turns human beings into symbols. Symbols are easier to hate, easier to worship, easier to manipulate. In the gray, you have to do the harder work. You have to watch patterns over time. You have to separate words from actions. You have to accept that the truth often looks uncomfortable before it looks clear. They condition you away from the unknown because the unknown cannot be controlled. An uncertain mind searches. A searching mind becomes independent. Independence is the enemy of anyone who wants to own your attention. So they train you to fear the unanswered question. They train you to demand an instant conclusion. When you do not know, they want you to feel embarrassed, like uncertainty means you are failing. That shame pushes you back to the tribe. The tribe offers certainty. The tribe offers ready-made beliefs. Ready-made beliefs feel like belonging. That is the trade. You surrender the slow craft of thinking in exchange for the warm blanket of agreement. Then you start defending the belief as if it is you. The belief becomes your identity. Now you are trapped. Not because the belief is true, but because losing it would feel like losing yourself. The unknown is where new life begins. Every transformation starts in a place where you do not have proof. You do not have clarity. You do not have applause. You have only a direction and a willingness to walk through fog. The gray is the corridor between who you were and who you could be. This is why so many people stay stuck. They want the comfort of certainty before they move. They want guarantees before they commit. They want to know the ending before they start. That demand is a prison. The man who grows is the man who can hold uncertainty without collapsing into panic. He can admit, "I do not know yet," and still move with purpose. That is strength. That is rare. That is why the gray is feared. It requires you to act without the protection of a simple story. Black and white thinking also turns you into a judge instead of a builder. You spend your energy deciding who is right and who is wrong. You become addicted to verdicts. Verdicts feel powerful because they give you a sense of control. Yet the verdict does not improve your life. It just gives you a moment of superiority. Meanwhile, the builders are in the gray, experimenting, adjusting, failing, learning, refining. They are not asking who is good. They are asking what works. They are not asking who to blame. They are asking what to change. This is the difference between a mind that wants to win arguments and a mind that wants to win life. A culture trained to think in extremes becomes a culture of critics. Critics feel important because they speak loudly. Builders become dangerous because they produce results. Tomorrow will reward the people who can move like creators instead of employees waiting for instructions. The old idea of labor was built on scarcity and obedience, on showing up and doing what you are told for a stable check. That model worked when the world moved slowly and information was locked behind gatekeepers. That world is fading. What replaces it looks like play to outsiders because the work is chosen, not assigned. It looks like freedom because the output comes from curiosity and self-direction. Play is not childish. Play is serious exploration with a smile in the chest and a blade in the focus. A person at play learns faster because the mind stays open. A person at play adapts faster because they are not defending a rigid identity. The future belongs to the ones who can build value the way children build worlds, with imagination and persistence, then refine it like craftsmen. Survival never left the human mind. It only changed clothes. The ancient hunt was food, fire, shelter, tribe. Now the hunt is attention, leverage, opportunity, reputation, time. The nervous system does not care whether you are chased by predators or chased by bills. It registers pressure all the same. This is why modern life produces exhausted people who feel like they are fighting every day without seeing an enemy. Entrepreneurship is survival with a different terrain. It is choosing to build your own safety instead of renting it from a structure that can change its mind. That choice triggers fear in people who worship certainty. They call it risky because their mind is trained to equate safety with permission. Yet the risk of staying conditioned is often greater, because the world can replace roles faster than it can replace character. The man who can create remains relevant even when the landscape shifts. Most people misunderstand entrepreneurship because they have been sold a costume. They picture luxury cars, viral headlines, billion-dollar exits, a loud identity built to impress strangers. They see the marketing version and assume the whole thing is a scam or a fantasy. The truth is quieter and more brutal. Entrepreneurship is simply taking responsibility for value. It is building something useful. then learning how to place it in the hands of people who need it. Sometimes it is a company. Sometimes it is a product. Sometimes it is a service. Sometimes it is your own name attached to a craft. It is not about size. It is about ownership of direction. A person can be an entrepreneur with a small, elegant life that fits their values. A person can also build a massive empire and still feel empty. Scale is not meaning. Meaning is alignment. Meaning is born when your skills, your story, and your focus stop fighting each other. Many people have talent yet no narrative. They have experiences yet no structure. They have ambition yet no target. Their energy leaks into random tasks. Then they call themselves undisciplined. A strong life is built when you stack your abilities like bricks, one on another, until they form a solid tower. That tower becomes your leverage. Your story becomes the glue because it creates trust and direction. Your focus becomes the weapon because it prevents dilution. This is why finite focus matters. Time is not infinite. Attention is not infinite. A man who tries to chase every trend becomes a ghost in his own life. A man who chooses a lane becomes unmistakable. The world starts recognizing him because he refuses to scatter. Play becomes the new work because the economy rewards adaptation, and adaptation thrives in environments that feel like exploration. The old model trained people to avoid mistakes. The new model requires experimentation. A person who treats everything like a test becomes rigid and anxious. A person who treats creation like a game becomes resilient and fast.